In the quiet hush between twilight and nightfall, when the last golden traces of the sun slip beneath the horizon and the world softens into a gentle blue. Allow your mind to drift with me as we journey far back into a history rarely spoken aloud. A history whispered only in fragments and cracked tablets, fading oral legends in the soft rustle of forgotten valleys where winds carry memories older than civilizations themselves. For tonight we explore the vanished people who claimed to be watched over, no protected by giants, towering beings whose steps shook the earth and whose shadows once stretched across mountains. A story so strange and so old that even those who preserved it never fully understood where truth ended and wonder began. Yet the more one looks into the remnants of this mysterious society, the more one realizes that something about their disappearance does not align with ordinary decline, but instead hints at an event, sudden, profound, and cloaked in a silence that has lasted thousands of years. And so, with a calm breath, imagine a valley surrounded by 3 mountains shaped like crescent moons, their slopes covered in mist that rarely lifts. A place described in ancient travel accounts as unreachable during storms because thunder echoed there twice as loud as anywhere else, and at the center of that valley once stood a city built not from small bricks or fragile wood but from massive stone blocks, each weighing several tons, carved with symbols that spiral endlessly, symbols modern researchers struggle to translate, though some believe the markings represent celestial beings with elongated limbs and hands large enough to cradle a grown man, and the people of this city known in scattered sources as the Casimir lived with a belief older than their architecture, a belief that a race of giants watched them, guided them, and protected them, giants who they claimed descended from the high ridges during storms, appearing only when danger approached, and according to their myths the Casimir did not fear the giants, but revered them as protectors sent by the earth itself, beings who once saved them from an ancient threat now lost to time. But for all their devotion, for all their carvings depicting tall figures walking among humans, for all their legends of enormous footsteps around their city during certain nights, one fact remains most unsettling. The Casimir vanished without leaving behind a single skeleton, a single sign of struggle, or a single explanation. Their homes abandoned yet perfectly preserved, as if every man, woman, and child stood up one morning, looked toward the mountains, and walked away forever. Imagine the peaceful quiet of that valley centuries after their disappearance, silent except for the wind brushing through empty doorways. And picture the first explorers who stumbled upon the ruins long after the world had forgotten the Casimir, named men on horseback who reported feeling watched as they approached, though no animals stirred and no figures passed between the shattered walls, and who described the eerie sensation that the city, though lifeless, somehow waited for something, as if holding its breath for travelers who would never return. And it was those early explorers who first recorded the strange stone circles surrounding the city, each one filled with depressions in the earth too large to be footprints, yet shaped unmistakably like them, as though some enormous being had stepped there many times, and the soil had hardened around the impressions, preserving them through ages. And though these men dismissed the idea of giants, they could not ignore the undeniable proportions 3 times longer than a human foot, deep enough that not even the heaviest animal could replicate them, so they documented everything, unsure whether they had found evidence of an unknown creature or merely geological coincidence. Yet the locals living near the valley insisted that these impressions were real, that they belonged to the protectors of the Casimir, and that anyone wandering too deep into the ruins risked disturbing them even in the present day. Throughout centuries, scholars examined the ruins with equal fascination and confusion, for the city's architectural precision surpassed that of surrounding regions by an unimaginable degree. The stone blocks fitted so tightly together that even after thousands of years a blade could not slide between them, and some walls were found tilted at slight angles, not due to weathering but constructed intentionally, perhaps to withstand pressure or movement of enormous force, leading some modern researchers to speculate whether the Casimir engineered their city to coexist with beings of unusual size. Though such suggestions are rarely accepted in academic circles, dismissed as mythological interpretation rather than scientific analysis. Yet one cannot overlook the carved murals that stretch across several surviving chambers, murals showing humans standing beside towering figures with elongated heads, broad shoulders, and hands large enough to envelop a human torso, beings depicted with halos not of light, but of swirling stone patterns, as if their presence distorted the air around them. And what's most intriguing is that these giants are never shown as rulers or gods, but as guardians standing at the borders of the valley, always facing outward, as if protecting the Casimir from something beyond the mountains, something threatening enough that even giants stood watch through storms and darkness. And as we continue drifting calmly through this story, imagine walking through those chambers, your footsteps echoing softly against ancient stone floors, the gentle ASMR hush of dust shifting beneath your feet, the cool air brushing your skin as you trace the carvings with your eyes, trying to understand why a civilization so advanced, so meticulously constructed, vanished with no signs of war, famine, or migration. And among the most puzzling discoveries was a final mural found deep underground in a vaulted room carved into the mountain itself, where the air feels heavier as if saturated with old memories. And on this mural, unlike the others, the giants are not shown standing guard, but walking away, their enormous silhouettes fading into the distance, while the Casimir stand behind them, reaching out with hands raised, as if pleading for their protectors not to leave. And beneath this scene lies an inscription so worn that only fragments can be read. When the watchers depart, the veil shall open, and we shall follow. No one has been able to decipher what the veil refers to, though some interpret it as a spiritual crossing, others as a physical gateway, and some French theorists believe it hints at a celestial event. But whatever its meaning, the Casimir vanished shortly after creating this inscription, leaving their city frozen in the stillness of abandonment, and the emptiness is perhaps the most haunting aspect of their disappearance, for archaeologists found meals left uneaten, fire pits still containing charred wood and tools positioned mid-use, all signs that something sudden occurred, something that caused every person to leave instantly and unanimously. As you breathe slowly, Imagine the possibility that the Casimir simply followed the giants wherever they went, perhaps into the mountains or into caverns that collapse later buried, or perhaps somewhere more extraordinary. Though no evidence of the Casimir has ever been found beyond the valley, not even scattered artifacts or tells in neighboring civilizations, as if their entire existence took place only within that single crescent-shaped valley guarded by 3 mountains. And the moment the giants left, the people devoted, trusting, perhaps fearful chose to follow. Modern researchers still puzzle over seismic records in the region, patterns indicating that roughly at the time of the Casimir's disappearance, the valley experienced unusual tremors unlike typical earthquakes, tremors rhythmic in nature, almost as if caused by a repeated force impacting the ground, reminiscent of though far larger than footsteps. And though this idea seems fantastical, it aligns eerily well with the legends of giants. Returning to the mountains, and these rhythmic tremors ceased abruptly, never recurring in any record afterward. And now, in the calm quiet of this moment, imagine yourself standing at the heart of the Casimir ruins under a sky full of stars, feeling the weight of history pressing gently against your shoulders like a soft blanket, listening to the wind whistle through empty doorways in slow melodic tones, feeling the ground beneath your feet cool and still, and sensing that faint, barely perceptible impression that something once watched over this valley, something enormous and silent and ancient, a presence that lingered long after the people had disappeared, as though memories were etched into the land itself, not in words or stone, but in the very atmosphere, waiting for wandering souls like us to listen. And so as your breath deepens and your body relaxes, let the mystery of the Casimir settle into your thoughts. A people who lived with guardians taller than trees, who built a city strong enough to outlast their bones, who vanished the moment their protectors left, following them across a threshold no historian can define, leaving behind only silent walls and a final inscription, whispering of a veil that opened just once, a veil that may still linger somewhere beyond the mountains, hidden in shadows older than time, waiting for those who still believe in giants.